Thanks for joining us for our webinar on Advice from Alumni, Discover Latin America. My name is Michelle McRaney. I'm the Senior Program Manager for Latin America for ISA, as well as the Resident Director for our programs in Lima, in Peru. I'm based here in Lima. I've been here for the past 17 years, but I've worked for ISA for about 25 years this year. So I'm also with us today is Abby. She's our Region and Account Manager for Latin America. She's monitoring the chat and will be dropping helpful links along the way, as well as answering any questions that you put into the chat. So feel free to drop them anytime. She's our expert on all things Latin America, and after you apply, you'll work with her directly. So it's going to be smooth sailing. So before we hear from our alumni, let's take a quick look at what Latin America has to offer. Well, there are many reasons why we all love Latin America. We've mentioned 4 here: the culture, the food, the nature, and the language exchange. You can't talk about Latin American culture without highlighting how vibrant, diverse, and warm it is. It's reflected in the colorful architecture of the buildings, the artistry found in each and every city, and the kindness of the locals. There is an incredible sense of community in Latin America. Everyone is so welcoming and kind, so making friends with the locals is easy. The food is amazing, like the empanadas, the gallo pinto, ceviche. Latin America is celebrated for its cuisine and has some of the world's top restaurants. Like here in Lima, we've got Central. It's ranked #1 in the world right now. So you'll experience the rich flavors of like Argentina while enjoying asado and dulce de leche. You'll immerse yourselves in the savory sensations of Colombian cuisine while having a bandeja paisa, their national dish. And you'll taste all of Costa Rica's natural ingredients while sipping on a cup of coffee in the morning. No matter where you study abroad in Latin America, your taste buds will be more than satisfied. Then talk about the nature. Whether you're looking to hit the beach, like here in Lima, or chase the waterfalls or hike mountains, experience the wildlife like you've never seen before, Latin America offers it all. From La Fortuna to Rio Celeste, there are so many waterfalls to explore around Costa Rica. And if you're eager to hit the trail and enjoy jaw-dropping views of Torres de Paine, be sure to check out the hiking trails of Patagonia. If you love animals, you have to check out the mighty Amazon. From pink dolphins to jaguars, the rainforest will leave you wanting more. And then finally, the language exchange. Looking to improve your Spanish? There's no better place in Latin America. No matter if you're in the mountains of Peru or in the beach in Costa Rica, the locals are incredibly kind as well and will help you along the way. While studying abroad with ISA, you can improve your Spanish language skills in all of these destinations. So let's talk a little bit about the 5 countries and the variety of host universities that you have to choose from, because there's really something for everyone, and each destination has a personality all of its own. In Costa Rica, we work in 2 different cities. We're in San Jose as well as Heredia, and Heredia is very close to San Jose, but it's a little bit smaller. We work with Universidad Veritas as well as the Universidad Latina in those sites. In Buenos Aires, we are at the Universidad del Belgrano. In Colombia, we work in 2 different cities, in Medellin as well as Barranquilla. And we work with the EAFIT in Medellin and the Universidad del Norte in Barranquilla. In Peru, we're here in Lima, and we're also in Cusco. There's several options in Lima. We work with the PUCP, the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Peru, the Universidad de Piura de Lima, which is in Miraflores, as well as the Cayetano Heredia Medical School. And we have a study center in Cusco. So you have lots of options as well as service learning options too. And in Chile, we work in Santiago with internships, as well as Viña del Mar and Valparaíso. They're 2 bordering towns in the same area where we work with Adolfo Ibáñez in Viña del Mar and La Católica University in Valparaíso. We also have great service learning options in Chile. So no matter which country you're in, you can live with a host family who can support you along your study abroad journey. Now let's meet the team. My goodness. Talk about a lot of people here to support you while you're abroad. And pre-departure. Our Latin America team is incredibly robust, and it includes in-country staff members who are ready to support you from the moment you get off the plane and you're heading back home. They're always happy to lend an ear or share their favorite local spots, as you can imagine. And our on-site staff are also planning excursions and activities that are included in your program fees. These are a great way to experience the local culture, venture outside of the city, and meet other ISA students. So a lot of times students have questions about funding their programs. So if you're an out-of-state student, going abroad may be cheaper, in fact, than studying at home. That's something to think about. If you already use ISA or financial aid, check your financial aid office. You can see if you can apply your financial aid that you receive at your home university to your program abroad. Do you currently use any scholarships? You may be able to take your scholarships with you as well. And have you looked at your budget? Consider getting a job, saving beforehand, or asking family for funds instead of gifts this holiday season. Abby's adding some links into the chat, so take a look at the links. We have resources on our webpage for how to fund your program as well, in addition to scholarship and grant information. So what's next? Well, if you haven't already applied, I strongly encourage you to set up an advising appointment. Our team can help you narrow down the options for the program that fits your needs. And Abby's dropping in a link right now. So if you'd like to book an appointment with one of us, there you go. And once you've chosen your program, you'll need to apply with us as well as at your home university. Be sure to stay in touch with your study abroad office along the way, as they can really help you through the process as it relates to your university. Once you apply, our program managers like myself and Rosina will be there to answer any questions that you have along the way. All right, now we're going to meet our alumni who have all firsthand experience with studying abroad in Latin America.
Great, yeah, so my name is Carly. I go to Ohio University. I am studying Spanish and Child and Family Studies. And just this summer, I spent 5 weeks in Cusco, Peru.
Edith will continue with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Edith. I attend the Westchester University in Pennsylvania. I went to Buenos Aires for a semester studying both Spanish and political science, which are my majors here at home.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Porter.
Hello, my name is Porter. I go to Knox College, which is a small liberal arts college in Illinois. And I also studied in Peru, specifically Cusco, just this last term. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, while I've got you on the video, let's start with you. Why did you choose to study abroad in Cusco, in your particular city?
Yeah, so for me, I knew I wanted to go on the west part of South America. It was something that I've been wanting to do for a while, specifically like the mountain range. And so I was looking at specific programs within Chile, Ecuador, and Peru. And also a big deciding factor for me is that I'm not fluent in Spanish yet. I'm very conversational and I'm getting there, but I didn't want to go into a full-fledged university because I was worried I couldn't keep up. And that kind of narrowed it down a lot because ISA has the study abroad specific school that it's meant to be kind of a more transitional space, but still like there were a lot of classes in Spanish. So using those two things, I found the program that fit me.
That's great. Yes, we have a study center in Cusco. Carly, what about you? Why Cusco?
Well, first off, for my Spanish major, it was a requirement to study abroad. However, that was not the leading reason for me to do it. I really have always dreamt of traveling. So that was like, one reason to do it. But specifically Cusco, I originally was going to go to the Spanish program that my school offers. However, I took a class on Latin American culture and I fell in love with it. And specifically, I fell in love with Cusco. I really wanted to learn more about the indigenous communities and get more of a personal touch. I felt like if I went to a city like Cusco, I would actually feel a part of the community and not just a wandering student. And also the mountain range is amazing. I've dreamt of Machu Picchu since the 7th grade, and once I saw all the excursions that were on there, I knew that it was the right choice for me.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, Edith, what about you? Why Buenos Aires?
So, my mom is actually from South America. She's from Uruguay. Unfortunately, ISA does not have any programs in Montevideo. We should work on that. But I did have a wonderful experience in Buenos Aires. The culture is very similar, and ultimately, what I wanted to do was solidify my Spanish and also feel more connected with the culture on the Rio de la Plata, which is what connects both cities. So I was excited to experience a big city for the first time, living in and studying in one. And I was also really excited to, experience all of the traditions that my mom tried to pass on to me, but were a little bit more difficult to find in a town that didn't have a lot of Argentinians or Uruguayans. So I was really excited that I was able to choose Buenos Aires.
That makes sense. That does. Even after you decide where to go, studying abroad can be a little daunting. So Carly, what was your biggest concern leading up to your program?
One of my biggest concerns was speaking the language was a little intimidating, but honestly, it wasn't the biggest thing that was driving my fear. I was really scared of flights. I had never done something like that before. From Ohio to Cusco, I had to go on 3 different airplanes, and I had never done that before. So I know it's not really the trip itself, but it's a big aspect of it. And especially getting to Lima and then having to, go through immigration, not in English, was intimidating. But as soon as I actually got to Peru, and I was shaking, I was like, hola, and I did it, and I spoke it. So it wasn't that bad. But yeah, before, when I was standing in the airport with my parents, I was like, I can't do it. I do not know what to do. But it's so easy. Everyone there is there to help you, and they want to help you. So it wasn't too bad.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad it went smoother. You had low expectations, so it went well. We know navigating language exchange can also be hard. Porter, what advice would you give to students who might be worried about that?
Yeah, so for me, I don't know if any of you relate to this, but I've always been trying to learn Spanish since junior high. And one of the biggest things that was preventing me, or not preventing me, but made it harder, is that all of my teachers growing up, because I'm from Idaho, which is, very rural, but all of my teachers were from the United States and had very thick accents that were similar to me. So for me, kind of going off of Carly, what was a big concern of mine was not just speaking the language, but specifically understanding an accent that's native to the country, because I was basically all my life in Spanish classes was learning Spanglish. And that's something, especially with the help of the ISA professors, was really good at helping with that, because they're all from, or at least where I was, they were all from Cusco. They were native to the country, and obviously they were well fluent in Spanish and English. So having those kind of people who knew a lot more and were trying to help you made it a lot easier of a progress. And then by the end of the program, I was speaking very easily with people from Peru and even Ecuador and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. You just kind of have to go for it, I guess. That's not really advice.
No, it is. It's true. Well, and Edith, you took classes with locals. What were some of the differences, or what was that like going to classes with locals?
It was very intimidating at first, especially because it was a foreign policy class about Argentina and the Americas, which I'm not sure if anybody here knows a lot about the relationship Argentina's had with the United States, but a lot of it has been the US interfering in Argentina. So being an American student in that situation was a little strange, a little awkward. But after the first couple of classes, you kind of get used to the different lecture styles that are present. And I was able to make some friends, some study partners. And I guess the biggest culture shock, especially coming from an American college experience, was that my grade depended on 2 exams, and that was it. I had to show up, I had to pay attention, I had to do the readings, all at a higher level of Spanish than I was used to in an academic setting. And I had 2 exams that everything hinged on. Luckily, it went well for me, but it was a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm so glad that I did it because I had the opportunity to speak with local students, people my age, about things that were affecting them, about the economy and the upcoming elections and all of the things that you hear about in the news, but you don't really know how people are actually feeling about it. So I was able to have that really cool experience.
That's great. I know, Carly and Porter were at the ISA Study Center with classes with other ISA students. Edith, you were in Buenos Aires. I think you were in classes with other international students as well as classes with locals. And that's kind of the dynamic that we have set up throughout Latin America. In fact, in Colombia, you can take classes also with locals in both English and Spanish. In Peru, you can take courses with locals on big campuses, or during the summer, take courses just with ISA students. So we have a really interesting offer that's available to students. And I think you can really find something for everyone, like we mentioned earlier. So we've talked about the academics, but in Latin America, there's just so much more to explore than the classroom. So, Peru is celebrated for its nature and beautiful landscapes. Carly and Porter, what were some of your favorite places that you visited in Peru?
I mean, one of the most obvious answers is Machu Picchu. That was just absolutely incredible. I think the reason, I'm sorry, I hope it's not too loud. My headphones just died and I feel like there's a lot of cars going by. But yeah, when I went to Machu Picchu, I had read about it, 1,000 times in my Spanish classes and online, and I've seen pictures. I was like, oh wow, this is a really cool place. But when I actually was standing on the ground, and my host dad was my tour guide, he was giving me a personal tour of it. He was just telling me the history, and I was just staring at the big stones and understanding how they were created and everything. Just blew my mind away. I had not expected such an amazing experience like that, even though I knew how incredible that place was. So I definitely would say Machu Picchu. The hype is real.
Definitely. And Porter, I mean, you maybe have had a little bit more time to travel around the country as a semester program. What other places might stand out for you?
Yeah. So one of the expeditions that we went on, I think it was a last minute plan, but we ended up going to Puerto Maldonado, which is the jungle, the genuine Amazonian jungle. And it was really cool because I've never been in a climate like that. I've traveled a lot around the United States, but there's truly nothing like that anywhere. And just being with these such lush trees and breathing in, and it's just so much wetter than it's I can't really describe it. I really loved that time though, because it's just so fascinating and different than anything else. And also going on top of that, I really just fell in love with the city of Cusco itself. Just even kind of normal residential neighborhoods, I really liked just the way that the houses are set is so much different than any of the cities I've seen in the United States. So I'd often just spend lots of my time just walking around and places I hadn't been before, or taking the bus to somewhere new and just sort of seeing what's around. So yeah, there's a lot of really, I guess, mundane, really nice sights, I guess is the word. But yeah, it's a very beautiful country.
Awesome. Well, I also love the jungle. That's one of my favorite spots here in Peru. I do hear where you're coming from. Edith, were you able to explore around Argentina and Uruguay? Well, what was that like?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to actually go and visit my family that is in Uruguay for a few weeks before the program started. So I actually arrived to Buenos Aires on a ferry. Most people arrive on a plane. I had to go through port security instead, and I got some weird looks because I had a student visa and all my bags with me. But if you are in Argentina, it's really easy to get over to Uruguay. I do suggest it. And they have beautiful beaches, better than Argentina, I will say. And Argentina was just spectacular. It was beautiful. I was able to go to the very far south to Ushuaia, which is called the end of the world. And I was able to go all the way north to the desert that kind of looks like Arizona, and to the waterfalls, Iguazu Falls, which are like just they're breathtaking. It was much like Porter was saying, I'd never been in a climate like that. It was subtropical, so I didn't manage to really make it to the Amazon, but it was like something straight out of Jurassic Park. It was absolutely insane. And I like can't recommend traveling enough if you are able to, even 1 or 2 trips just to see a little bit outside of where you're living for the semester, like really helps you feel connected to the country itself.
I completely agree. And we, you know, we have also, like we mentioned, Costa Rica and Colombia, and Chile, and those are also other sites that are fascinating, environmentally, geographically. You know, students always do a lot of travel, whether it's independent travel or with ISA on our included excursions or optional excursions. So I'm so glad and happy to hear that you all took advantage of those opportunities and enjoyed traveling and getting to know your country. But we know making friends while abroad is a concern, and we hear from students each and every year. So sometimes students will create group chats to arriving, right? Edith, what was that experience like for you? Did it help you in making friends?
Yeah, I was actually the really annoying person who, before we even met, before we even left the country, when we got everybody's emails and names and where they were from, I sent an email saying, "What's your number? Let's make a WhatsApp group." And it was amazing because that was how we first started to get to know each other. And then when we landed in Argentina, it was like we already kind of knew each other. And it was what we used to say, you know, we're going to this market on Sunday, or we're going out tonight, or we're doing something. And we were able to use those kinds of group chats to stay connected with the ISA students that were with us. But we were also able to, you know, use that as a launch pad to then feel comfortable to talk to new people.
Awesome. I don't know. What about you, Porter? Was it easy to make friends while you were abroad?
Yeah. So because I was at the study center, most of my like daily interactions were with people also from the United States, who were also kind of in the same situation as me, where they were learning Spanish, or, you know, were fluent in Spanish but didn't have the confidence to go to like a full university yet, because that's a lot. And so I went to Peru. So, okay. Peru, the president got impeached in December and my program started in January. So my program was very strange. And there's a lot of things that happened. But basically, my program was about half the size, or a little less than it usually is. And that's something I was really scared about, is that because there was only 8 people in my program total. But it's one of those things where it ended up being, and I don't know if it was luck or not, but I really liked the people I was with, at least who were like from the United States and spoke English, and we all got along. And it was a nice environment because we all practiced like Spanish with each other often, because we all came with the same goals to learn Spanish. But then also when we were like exhausted from a day of like 3 classes just in Spanish that are 2 hours each, we'd just like also have nights where we could just cool down and speak English, which was for me a really nice resource, because it was really overwhelming for me to speak Spanish day in, day out. So to have this sort of support system of people who speak your first language was really helpful to me. And then also through a lot of those people, like I had a friend named Max who was really close with a group of Peruvian like basketball players. So we ended up meeting more people just because I knew people and they knew people. So yeah, I really liked the way that we interacted, because uh, yeah, you just hit the group chat up being like, we're going to the market today, or me and some Peruvian students at the university are going to see a movie if anyone wants to come along. And it was very accepting, because no one really knew each other beforehand. So we were all very open arms to each other.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's true. Peru was going through kind of a strange situation at the start of the year, and that affected Carly's program as well. So Carly, do you have any advice also for students who are on these smaller programs or maybe introverted?
Yeah, so yeah, for my situation, I only had one other person on the trip. So we didn't have a big classroom setting of meeting a bunch of people. It was just me and the one girl. And I really liked her and I was very grateful that she was the one on there. But you know, I wanted to communicate with people outside of the United States. And so my like advice, and this is like my thought, is I always just told myself, like, look, I'm in Peru. This might be my only time, you never know. And, you know, you only live once kind of idea. I'm not saying go out there and do anything rash, but I remember that me and her went to like a bar, and one of her like Peruvian friends was there, and that Peruvian friend had a whole friend group. And I just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna practice my Spanish. So I was drinking my little like daiquiri that they had for us, and I looked to one of the friends there, and I just started talking, and we actually like hit it off really well, and we like hung out a couple more times, and now I've got a really good Peru friend that I talk to all the time. We practice Spanish, we video chat, and it's awesome. It's really exciting. I have a friend I can go visit now in Peru potentially, or something like that. So when you're in those stressful situations, just let go of what you would do in the US, because it's your chance to really break out of your shell. So take that little risk and just try chatting with someone, because the odds are they're going to want to talk back with you.
Definitely. And it's important to meet local people that are your age and have those interactions. I know ISA tries to organize also those types of connections through language exchange, or like the soccer or dance activities, things like that. So I'm glad that you all had a chance to participate on those and meet some other people. And then talking about making connections, what was it like living with a host family? Carly, you can start.
So for me, living with the host family was the best. It was a crucial part of my trip, and I don't think my experience would have been the same without it for my personal situation. I was lucky enough to get like a wonderful family. I had it was a mother, a father, and then two little boys. And the language immersion that you get from living with a family and they're talking not academically is incredible. It taught me a lot of things. But then I got to practice things that I don't usually say, like playing board games with little kids, or just talking about my plans for later, or what I did with my host mom. And, you know, they'd make little corrections, or they'd be like, oh, I don't know that word actually. Or like, if I like, we like would go back and forth and like just help out. So if you're definitely looking to like learn a language, 100% do it. But even if not, they are so supportive. So I definitely recommend host families.
Great. And Porter, did you have a similar experience with your homestay?
Yeah, so my homestay was kind of a similar setup where there was a mom and dad, and then they had two daughters. For me, I ended up not talking to them as much as I was expecting to going in, just because we were all really busy by the end of it. But that being said, they were still very supportive, and like I went to the market a few times with my host mom. It was a thing where my host mom only spoke Spanish, and then the host dad spoke a little English as well. So like he'd kind of tell me like important things I needed to know in English, but then we just talk in Spanish for the rest of the time. And the mom and I, although we didn't hang out very much, like besides this, we ended up having breakfast together most mornings, and like the girls were at school, and I don't remember what my host dad was doing, but the mom and I had a lot of really nice conversations. And especially because she didn't know English, it really forced you to like learn to communicate with each other and like learn different ways to like rephrase things really well. Um, so I really cherish those kind of like mornings we had together. I would say, I don't know, it is one of those things, if you're gonna live with a host family and you're expecting them to be like your best friends, you have to really make an effort, because I quickly got very busy and they were also very busy. Um, so yeah, but they were very supportive and like very much obviously attended to my needs and stuff like that. And the cooking was really good. So yeah, it was a really nice experience.
Awesome. Yeah, it's nice when you have someone taking care of the meals for you. Edith, what about you? What was your experience like?
Yeah, I was really grateful to have my host mom. I was living with her and her adult son. And I was really grateful that she was able to help when I was sick. She took me to the clinic, and she made sure that I knew what was going on. She, you know, bought me the Gatorade and made sure that I was feeling all right. And she was really helpful to talk to if I was like, where do I go buy a hair dryer? She told me I didn't go buy a hair dryer, but she told me in case I wanted to. And she also helped me like navigate the public transportation system. There are a lot of bus lines in Buenos Aires. Google Maps helps a lot. You can put in where you want to go, and they'll tell you how to get there. But having a local, somebody say, well, maybe you don't want to take that line because it'll take you into a weird neighborhood. Go with this line instead, and you'll get to where you need to go either way. Was really helpful to have that kind of local knowledge.
That's great to hear. Yeah, living with a homestay or host family does provide you that kind of support usually. We do offer in some of our sites other housing options like a student residence in Barranquilla, as well in Medellin, Colombia, and in Buenos Aires, we do have a student residence available as well. So for those that are looking for maybe something else other than a homestay, that's something that you could look into too. Okay, so checking your packing list is a great recommendation. It's something that we always get questions about. So Edith, would you recommend students pack given the climate? What would you recommend?
Yes, so I did take 2 suitcases, I should say point blank. I covered all occasions. I didn't bring my hiking boots, which was a mistake because I did end up going to several places where wearing Converse wasn't the best idea. So like going in, if you know that you're interested in doing some more of the outdoorsy type of things, maybe bring the boots just in case. Even if you don't plan on doing something when you're leaving, you never know what might pop up. But researching the climate is really, really important. Maybe not bringing 2 suitcases, that's up to you though. I was glad that I did. I used a lot of what I brought. But places like Buenos Aires aren't warm and tropical all year round. And people think that they are. And my host mom had some pretty sad stories of people who showed up just in like tank tops and shorts, and then it was cold. Maybe not as cold as people in the north in the US are used to it getting in winter, but it still gets pretty chilly. So making sure you're doing your research, making sure you have clothes that are appropriate for the weather is really important to having a good time, because you don't want to be freezing walking to school when you could have just brought a jacket. So just knowing stuff like that is really important when you're packing.
Awesome. Yeah, it's true that there's a lot of misunderstandings about the climate, especially in South America, since we're on the opposite hemisphere. We're in the southern hemisphere. It's like the opposite seasons a lot of times. So I don't know, Porter, would you have packed differently now having been through the program, or how did you do?
Yeah, I did some pretty extensive research about packing, and plus I knew someone in Peru to kind of tell me like here's what it's like, and especially like here's what it's like right now. When I got there, they were still going through the rainy season. So I was very prepared. I had like my rain jacket and stuff like that. I packed really light. I think I brought only like 7 or so shirts, which I mean, depending, to me, I kind of wish I brought more because I packed really light, expecting to take a lot of stuff home. And I did, but it was also one of those things where I was prioritizing what to take back as opposed to like actually living there. Um, but yeah, I don't know. This is contradictory, but I would say pack light. Hiking is boots are very important, even if you don't consider yourself very active or like outdoorsy, because just there's so much more walking that happens in South America. And it got to a point where like if I wore any other shoes besides my hiking boots, just walking around, my feet would get sore, because they were much better quality than like the cheap like Vans I had as well. Um, but yeah, once again, kind of contradictory, but also I would recommend leaving at least a little bit of space to bring stuff home. Because I definitely knew some people in my program who were kind of like, oh, it's like I either pay like an extra $40 to ship this back, or have to figure out something else. But yeah, I don't know. I was pretty good with my packing.
Awesome. Did you feel the same way, Carly, about your packing?
Yeah, I felt pretty good with what I packed. I also like what they both said. I packed lighter. I do feel like though I had a good amount of stuff. I felt warm and everything. But some of the things that were different that, I was thinking like, oh, what's the temperature? But other things that I considered that might be good to consider is altitude. Because in Cusco, you're a lot higher than what I'm used to in Ohio. So things like sun protection was really important. I tried to wear long sleeves a lot, hats, because I was not going to get sunburned. Another thing I like to think about though is cultural expectations for dressing. Not that anyone should like really change who they are for someone else's like opinions and everything. However, you don't want to you know, do anything that might offend other people or really just make yourself stand out too much. So I kind of just made sure I understood what they expected people to wear, and it was like, you know, more covering kind of stuff. Plus, it's just cold, and they like I know a lot of other countries dress a little bit nicer than a lot of us in the United States, because I think a lot of us are kind of used to like going to college in comfy clothes, which totally get. But after reading up on that, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, you know, try to make sure I wear like jeans and my cargo pants most days instead of maybe leggings every day. It wasn't a big deal. My clothes were totally fine. No one ever said anything, but it was just something I had in the back of my head while I was shuffling through all my shirts.
Well, that makes sense. You're right. You're trying to blend in. Sometimes, you know, you sit and you people watch and you look and see what, you know, how the locals are dressing on an everyday basis. And you think, okay, well, if I'm going to try to immerse myself, maybe I'll try to, you know, look like a local, like dress similarly. Not every day, but it is kind of fun as part of your experience. Okay, well, this one is for everyone. We've got 2 more questions. So everyone hang in there with us before we open it up for questions. But knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your former self before going abroad? And we'll start, Carly, we just ended with you. We'll start back with you.
Yeah, if I were to go back in time and tell myself anything, it would be to calm down and to relax a little bit, because it's fun and it's everyone does it, not everyone, but a lot of people do it. And it's gonna be okay, and have faith in myself. I think that would be my biggest thing, is just to realize that it will all work out. You're with a great program. Everyone's there to support you. And you know more than you let yourself believe. So just trust yourself.
That's great advice. How about you, Edith? What advice would you give your former self?
That's difficult. Because I feel like I grew so much through this program. I ended up spending around 6 months total in South America. So I feel like it was very transformative 6 months. Looking back, my number one thing would be don't stress about the visa. You will get the visa. It will be okay. You will get your passport back on time. It will work out. For one of my friends, it actually was a little bit more difficult for him. He did arrive a week late, but he was still able to start classes. He still finished well. He did well, like he did amazing. So you don't need to worry about the visa. It will happen. And ultimately, just like to relax, have a good time. By the end, I was saying yes to a lot more things, but I let fear kind of stop me at the beginning. So say yes if it's not dangerous and you're not putting yourself in harm's way. Like, what's the harm in saying yes? You might meet some cool people, you might experience some fun things, and you'll get some fun stories out of it. So definitely say yes and don't worry about the visa, and you'll be great.
Yeah, and trying new things, like you said, like saying yes maybe to, you know, a sports class that you've never tried before, or like surfing here in Lima. Some, you know, people are like, I've never surfed before, that's not for me. I'm like, well, just try it, give it a, you know, say yes this once, you know, things like that. I really love what you had to say, both of you. And about the visa, you know, it's interesting, we've come back from the pandemic, there's been a lot of changes in the various visa systems. And right now, Buenos Aires is actually our only site in Latin America that is still requiring the student visa, but they're flexible, like you said. In fact, we even had a student who could process one once on site, since he was waiting for his passport to arrive and it came late. So there's always, like you said, a way to get there, right? So last but not least, okay, let's talk about what a life-changing experience that study abroad can be. You've already mentioned some things, but what was that moment that you'll never forget? And we'll start with you, Porter.
Oh, okay. I was asked this question earlier, and then I still haven't had time to think of a good answer. But I think for me, aside from like what Carly said, like going to like all these like beautiful places like Machu Picchu and like the jungle and like lots of different like beautiful locations, like they're all breathtaking in their own way. But one of my favorite memories I can just think of off the top of my head is one time I just took a bus up I didn't really know where it was going, but because Cusco is so much like it's so mountainous, I just saw a bus going up the mountain. I said I'm gonna go up there. So I just started hiking up around there in like this kind of like smaller sort of off village of it, and there was like just a lot of friendly like farmers who were I had some brief conversations with, and at some point like a couple of stray dogs began following me, and at first I was kind of scared because I was like, are they gonna like attack me or anything? And it's like they didn't even want to be pet, they just wanted company as I walked. It was really nice. And then like just being on top of this mountain and looking over the entire city with these two dogs I like ate a little picnic was like really transformative to me. I don't know, it's like that sounds kind of mundane, but I don't know, I really enjoyed exploring on the buses and finding where I went up ended up probably like most of my top 10 moments is just like I got on a bus and I looked around where I was when I got off and I was just really like aghast. So is that, no, is aghast a bad word? I don't, awful? Oh God, I'm making it worse. Okay.
No, I totally understand. It was just one of those breathtaking, like memorable moments. You know, that makes sense. What about you, Carly?
So it might be a little cliche, cheesy, but I don't really have a specific event. It really was just all of it together. Overcoming some of those challenges, like the altitude is for real. Anyone going to anywhere that's higher altitude, when they tell you that it's hard to walk, I don't care how in shape you are, it hurts. And walking up those hills and being like, I'm not gonna make it, and then doing it and being like, oh, okay, I can do it. All those little things I think really have helped me realize now that I'm capable of a lot more things than my brain and my body tell me that I'm capable of. So I think I'm just gonna really like take all those little moments like Rainbow Mountain, and some other local things where I was hiking and push through the pain and all that, and it's so worth it. And I don't know, I just really think I think that really changed my perspective on me and just on a lot of other things.
Yeah, these study abroad experiences are always really great reflective opportunities on oneself. And Edith, what about you? What was that one, if you have, moment that you'll never forget while you were abroad?
Yeah, so because I took courses with locals and they have a different final schedule than the rest of the ISA classes that I took, I had about a month of free time that was, I think, technically supposed to be used for studying. However, I studied. I also traveled, and it was my first time ever traveling solo fully. I have been on some flights by myself, but there was always somebody dropping me off and waiting for me at the other end. This was my first time arriving in a brand new city with no one familiar around me. And I did twist my knee and it did really hurt, but I spent an amazing 5 days in Salta, which is a town in the north of Argentina. And not only was the nature just beautiful, but like the feeling that I could travel by myself, fulfill this dream that I've been having my whole life to travel abroad by myself was finally coming true. I saw that I could do it. And I made some really good friends in the hostel, and I just had a really great time. And so it was like, that was the culminating effect of spending those 5-6 months in Argentina, was I can actually do this. I can be who I want to be. So that trip was just fantastic. I still think about that trip like weekly. It was amazing.
I love to hear that. Well, I can tell you myself, all of us who work at ISA, Abby was in Argentina as well. I know she's here on the call. We work here because we also had those memorable, life-changing experiences, and we wanted to be involved in those kinds of experiences for other students as well. So thank you so much, the three of you, for sharing your experiences with ISA in Latin America. We really appreciate you being here. Okay, well, like I said, we appreciate you all being here. Students that are interested students here on the call, please reach out to us if you have any other questions. If you're curious about destinations or specific terms or programs or whatever it might be, we are happy to answer all your questions and just talk to you about the experience in general. So we're signing off and we wish you all a wonderful rest of your day.